What if I told you that in 2024, making a full-time income as a musician isn't just possible, but it's way easier than you think? In this video, I'm breaking down the exact steps I would take if I were starting from scratch and building a thriving music career today. And stay with me because at the end, I'm sharing a bonus move that most musicians overlook, and it may just change the way you approach your music career. So I know what you're thinking. Can I actually make a full-time income as a musician in 2024? Maybe you're afraid of even trying, or afraid you don't have the skills or the know-how to even pull it off. Trust me, I totally get it. So many musicians do feel like the odds are stacked against them. But trust me, I've been there. I started from scratch and now I make over 6 figures as a full-time musician. And not only that, I've helped hundreds of musicians just like you break through those doubts and fears and become full-time musicians. So I'm going to share the exact strategies I've used and I've taught others to build a thriving music career. And stay with me again because these strategies could change everything for you. And there are really 5 of them. And let me break down a scenario to explain the first one. So this is the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. And when it was released earlier this year, the cost of it was just over $1,200. Now, what if I told you I was selling you this phone for $10,000? Would you want to buy it from me? Of course you wouldn't, right? But now, what if I told you that within the next 60 seconds or so, I'm going to make you want to buy this phone from me for $10K or more? So I attended 3 masterminds this year. One from Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, one from Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, and one from the CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai. And I paid $25,000 for each of these separately, and they all shared their business strategies with me about how to make money. And I have the recordings of them all on this phone. Also, I have the personal phone numbers of keyboardist Corey Henry, guitarist John Mayer, drummer Chris Coleman, and bassist Victor Wooten, and Beyonce stored in my cell phone, and they all know me personally and will take my phone call at any time. Also, I was at NAMM last year, and I got all of the major vendors from Yamaha to DW drums to Ken Smith basses to Fender guitars and even more to give me 75% off coupons for any item I wanted in their store. And those coupons are on this phone. And speaking of Beyonce, I was at a celebrity party earlier this year partying with Beyonce, J-Lo, Rihanna, and Ariana Grande. And at some point they all got drunk and on a dare agreed to text me their nudes. And I have them all stored in this cell phone. Now do you want to give me $10,000 for it? And this illustrates the first thing I would do this year if I wanted to make a full-time income as a musician. And that is become more valuable. I would spend the next 2 to 3 months adding valuable skills to myself. And it could be things like cameras and tech, or financial literacy, or leadership skills, or music recording skills, and more. And not only will these things exponentially increase your value, like the nudes of pop stars in a cell phone, but they're going to give you a major head start over almost all other musicians. Okay, so now you've added value to yourself, but how do you make people notice it? Well, that's what we're covering in this next tip, so don't go anywhere. Now, you may be old enough to remember that in the 90s, there was this really common movie trope that a lot of movies used, where it was always this guy at a school or something that this girl had a crush on, but this guy never really paid attention to her because she was average looking. And at some point in the movie, this girl dresses up all nice and finally gets this guy's attention, but she also gets the attention of all of the other guys in the school as well. And it usually plays out where her and the guy or something will end up together at the end, right? So in essence, what was really happening was this girl actually had value in the dating market, but no one was able to see it until she showed it. And this illustrates what I would do next if I wanted to make a full-time income as a musician this year. and that is start showing and demonstrating that value we just talked about in the last tip. See, just like the girl in the movie, you already have value in the music industry. You already have skills. And if you follow the last tip, you have even more skills. But no one is going to see it until you start showing it. And the way I would do that is just record some videos and stuff, demonstrating that knowledge of, me playing or whatever it is, and upload it to a platform like YouTube. I would write blogs and posts about it. I would join Facebook groups around those subjects that I have expertise in and contribute to those groups. And what this does is it helps you build authority, and it helps you become the go-to person for the skills you have. Okay, with that in place, this next one is all about making all of this work for you. So let me be brutally honest with you about something. You cannot make a full-time income as a musician by just doing gigs alone. Unless you're doing some super high-end, super high-paid gigs, which isn't the majority of us musicians, it's just not going to happen. I always give the example that you could be doing those $100 gigs every Friday and Saturday night for an entire year, and at the end of that year, you will only have made just over $10,000. Hell, you could double that, and at the end of the year, you would only still be making like just over $20,000. And that's just not an income that's going to help you be full-time and thrive as a musician in today's world. And this is exactly why the next thing I would do if I wanted to be full-time this year is build a business around what I do musically instead of just depending on gigs. And what this would look like for me, and actually does look like for me now, are things like music consulting. I'd be selling music courses and things like that. And the thing about it is, all of these things are super easy to do, and they're extremely lucrative. You could create a simple video course using your cell phone on, say, how to play major chords on the guitar, and sell that course for $25. And you would only need to sell about 10 of them to make the money that you make on those weekend gigs. Again, it's just super easy, and it can all be done on YouTube for free. And speaking of YouTube, if you're ready to take your career to the next level, this is exactly what I teach inside the YouTube Creator Academy. Whether you want to grow your following, create and monetize your YouTube channel, or just create multiple streams of income using YouTube, I've got you covered. I'll walk you through everything from setting up your YouTube channel to getting monetized and earning revenue from your subscribers. So if you're interested, click the link in the description of this video and let's start building your music empire together. Okay, so how do you take all that we've talked about and take it even further? Let's talk about that. Now, I don't know if you follow the game of basketball, but you have undoubtedly heard the whole Michael Jordan versus LeBron James debate about which player was better and which one was the GOAT. I'm personally a Michael Jordan guy, but we can fight about that later. But what never seems to get mentioned in these debates are the teams that were built around both Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Neither Jordan or James would be GOATs without their teams holding them up. And this is exactly how relationships work in the music industry. What I've realized is when you're out there trying to go at it alone, you're extremely limited in what you can achieve. But when you strategically connect with the right people, your potential is unlimited. Because as you know, it's not about the player in the band. It's the band that sounds good. And this brings me to the next thing I would do if I wanted to build a full-time music career this year, and that is really focus on building authentic relationships. I would focus on surrounding myself with people who inspire and elevate me and who open doors. And I would do this by doing things like attending industry events and, contributing to online forums and stuff like that, and just genuinely connecting with people to contribute to their lives positively. And this will fast track you to a full-time income music career for sure. And finally, here is what will truly set you apart. So unfortunately, we've had a few major hurricanes in the US this year, one that just happened a few days ago as recording of this video, and one that even affected me earlier this year. And if you've never experienced any sort of natural disaster, it's really hard to imagine the type of catastrophe and destruction that it causes on people's lives and their homes. Now, imagine for a second a home or a house that was built on a single pillar. A house like that during a natural disaster would be blown away in seconds, whereas a house built on multiple pillars will have a greater chance of survival during a major storm or natural disaster, right? Your financial foundation becomes shaky, just like the house built on one pillar. But if you have multiple streams of income, things from like music licensing, music consulting, and all of the things that we mentioned, your house is built on multiple pillars, and you don't have to just depend on that one pillar, and a storm can come through and wipe it out, and you're still okay. And that's the next move I would make in 2024 to make a full-time income as a musician. I would diversify my income streams. I talked about this a little bit earlier, but think about all the ways you can monetize your skills, from things like online lessons or consulting with younger musicians to help them out, or whatever. When you have multiple pillars holding up your music career, it's much easier to become full-time, and it's much harder to get knocked down, and it's much easier to have a thriving music career. Now, we've covered how to make a full-time income as a musician, but there is one thing that will stop you from getting there, and that is criticism. No matter how much you bring to the table, dealing with negative feedback is going to be a part of the journey. And if you want to know how to not just handle it, but use it to make you grow and become more confident, then check out my video on how to handle criticism as a musician. Trust me, it's the key to thriving as a musician.